This is Behind the Scenes. I'm Scott Sexsmith. A Sault Ste. Marie man recently set sail aiming to break a Guinness World Record in his giant pumpkin, his 900-pound pumpkin. Sault Today reporter Alex Flood joins us with the scoop. Alex, first off, what was the previous record for distance traveled in a giant pumpkin boat?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I believe it was 61 or 62 kilometers, and that record was actually just broken last week or the week before. Brent was telling me down in the States. So, it's a pretty venturous idea to try to go after that, especially up here in Northern Ontario, where our waters, at least in the St. Mary's River and Lake Huron, Lake Superior, it's obviously very unpredictable, and you would need to schedule it right to get it right. It was pretty incredible to watch someone locally go after it.
So Brent Rubel is his name. He was the captain of the good ship Pumpkin. How did Brent prepare for his journey, both in terms of growing the pumpkin and planning the trip? Was there a specific training regime?
Yeah, it was really, it was a lot. Like, it was a daily thing. He would have to come home from his full-time job already, spend 2-3 hours every night germinating, planting, maintaining, growing. The big pumpkin isn't the only thing he grows. He's been an avid gardener for a while. I think what struck me and what struck a lot of people was the fact that he just has a pretty everyday, regular home in the East End with a pretty regular, everyday fenced-in backyard. We're not talking about someone who's on a farm or someone who has a lot of acreage in terms of land. This guy just is in the East End with a normal backyard and was able to grow a 900-pound pumpkin, which is just insane. And the other part that was pretty crazy about it was that this was his first attempt at growing a giant one. He had only grown pumpkins the previous 2 years, and then suddenly he just came up with the idea that he wanted to do it. And another interesting thing too is from day one, he wanted to ride that pumpkin in a boat and take it on the river. He knew that that's what he wanted to do. And so many things had to go right for him. He had to, grow one that was going to be big enough first off, and then so many more things had to line up to make sure it would go right. And fortunately for him, after all that hard work, he was able to get it floating on Sunday, which is just wild.
Yeah, and it seemed as though the community really came together to support Brent and cheer him on.
They did. And he admitted to me too, he was a little surprised by the community feedback. It wasn't one of the major reasons why he wanted to do it. It was kind of just like an extra nice thing that happened. Family and friends obviously came together, but he was telling me folks were coming from Bruce Mines and Thessalon and even Iron Bridge. I think as far as there, just people were so curious, and that's one. When it's a good local story, I mean, where else are you going to hear about some guy traveling in a giant pumpkin? You certainly won't hear that in Toronto, I don't think. It's very unique for our area. And I know they do those sorts of things out on the East Coast as well. But again, those are small towns too. So it was a very unique opportunity to see it in person. And I was a little skeptical. I will be honest. I didn't imagine a pumpkin could float. And it's not something that I've ever thought of. I don't just, go to bed at night and think, could a pumpkin float? Like, I don't think like that. But some people do, I guess. And hey, that's pretty cool. He carved it out well and stuck a hole in the top for him to sit in, and it floated immediately. It was incredible.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the over-under on that would have been as to whether or not it would have sank or not. Now, sadly, Alex, Brent's journey came to an end about 25 kilometers in. What happened, and is there any word on whether or not he's going to give this another go?
Absolutely. Just speaking to the unpredictability earlier, St. Mary's River and Lake Huron and that water system is no joke, especially at this time of year. The currents and the wind conditions, temperatures even, obviously change day to day around here. So he tried to plan it around a day that he thought was going to be favorable, and actually was supposed to be favorable. The currents were actually supposed to be going in the direction that he was going. And that's the key to all of this. Pumpkins are not designed to be a kayak. The fact that they float, I think, is already pretty cool. But to paddle in it and to get a considerable amount of distance, you have to have water on your side. And unfortunately, they realized pretty early on that he wasn't going to. His best case scenario was to go 5 kilometers an hour, which would have taken him about 12, 13 hours for the journey in total, which to imagine that that's the best case scenario is crazy, but that's what they had planned for. But unfortunately, 8 hours in, they only got about 20 kilometers. They knew it was going to be a long shot. So yeah, he called it quits, but he was happy with the distance he got. Again, he was happy the thing just floated to begin with. So he was going to take what he could get. And absolutely, he's already looking forward to doing it next year. He told me he wants to grow one twice the size. And there's a river actually in southern Ontario. I believe it's called the Grand River. And he and his team are hoping to find a sponsor, get them sent down there on a trip and do it all over again. Apparently that river is much better than ours in terms of favorable pumpkin boat conditions. So I think that's on the docket for this time next year for sure.
All right. Now, before we let you go, Alex, you may not have set the world record, but were any records set in the process?
Yeah, he's waiting to hear back from Guinness and Guinness World Records because he asked them if this was the record for the Great Lakes system. I have a feeling he has it. I've never heard of someone in this area doing what he did. So we'll see if they get back to him or not. Even if they don't, I think it's a fair assumption he at least has the furthest distance traveled on the Lake Superior system, because again, I don't think most people would want to dare doing it because of its unpredictability and the fact that just nobody really does this to begin with. It's just such a unique, cool thing that he was able to do, and all the behind the scenes work that went into it. I mean, it was obvious why some of his family members were tearing up, because this guy has been working on this since May with one goal in mind, and essentially he achieved the goal just without getting the entire distance. But to him, that didn't matter, and he was just happy to spread positivity during times that aren't always positive, especially in 2023 right now. So he was happy to just put happy faces around the marina.
And he did just that. Good for him. In a 900-pound pumpkin. Could you imagine the pies that pumpkin could generate?
And all the seeds, too. He's telling me he was going to give away all the seeds as well. That could fill a truck, I'm sure.
I'm sure it could. Alex Flood from Soo today. Thanks for this, Alex, and thanks for taking us behind the scenes.